The Cowboys will never win another Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones' prehistoric ass, and that fraud Dak Prescott. And speaking of frauds, of course the Eagles just had to go and choke again. Started out 10-1 just to shit themselves and fall apart for the rest of the regular season, looking almost as bad as the 2020 Steelers. And Steelers, I'm on your ass. You know what? I'm going to save it for the video. These are 5 NFL teams that won't win a future Super Bowl. If you haven't done so already, join the family and subscribe. And if you're a Washington Commanders fan, find God and get a life. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 teams that have the potential to reach the Super Bowl, but never will. There's no reason to talk about teams like the Jags, Raiders, or Jets, since we all know those teams don't have a single chance of making it to the Super Bowl. I want to talk about the teams that have the potential to reach the Super Bowl, but shoot themselves in the foot every single year. Teams like the Chargers, who are always mid but never great, who think they have a franchise quarterback, yet he's never won the Chargers shit. So is Herbert even legit? He never surpassed expectations because we never had expectations for him. Or the Cleveland Browns, who got robbed at gunpoint by the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans collected draft picks from the Browns and gave them a washed quarterback who needs massages just to activate. And we can't forget the Browns ran Baker Mayfield out the city, just for him to be carrying the Bucks and making them contenders. So instead of talking about meaningless teams like the Panthers, I'm going to talk about 5 teams that actually have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl, but never will. Number 1, the Cowboys. Every single year, the Cowboys find a way to give their fans this false hope, make them believe that it's their year, and they'll bring another Lombardi trophy back to Dallas. But every season ends with the same result, 11+ win season, playoff appearance, just to end up getting punished by the 49ers, well in this case, the Green Bay Packers. Dak, how do you year after year find a way to choke and freeze up in the playoffs? You're the MVP for 17 weeks. Then once the playoffs start, you get rattled and look like Zach Wilson. Now you did try to bring the Cowboys back, but it was too late. You waited until you were down 30 to play football, so your ass got sent home once again. Have fun in Cancun. And Mike McCarthy, how does it feel to know that Green Bay not only fired you once, but twice? But there's good news. Amazon needs you. Time to pull up Indeed and get to applying because your time in Dallas is over. Number 2, the Eagles. The Eagles are what I like to call a PAF, a pathetic ass franchise. They couldn't just let the Cowboys be the laughingstock of the league. The Eagles watched Green Bay blow the Cowboys' backs out and decided they wanted the same treatment and some. At least the Cowboys eventually fought back. The Eagles just laid there and took it, like the soft, overrated team they are. The Eagles once again let down their chaotic fans in their shitty ass city. Just like your daddy, you dominated the regular season just to fall apart in the playoffs. Honestly, the Eagles started falling apart way earlier than that. The Eagles were hot at 10-1 and they just didn't look the same after. If anything, they look just like the 2020 Steelers who started the season 11-0 just to end the regular season 12-4 and lose to the fucking Browns in the wildcard round. Speaking of the Steelers, they come in at number 3. Why won't the Steelers win their 7th Super Bowl? It's because they're just average, and they'll forever be average. They don't have a terrible team, but they're just mid. Mike Tomlin is a good coach, but he's not a great coach. He can win you games in the regular season, but he can't get you to the Super Bowl unless his roster is stacked and he has the right pieces around him. So do those winning seasons even really matter if he can't complete the ultimate goal? If I was a Steelers fan, I would have higher expectations and want more than just a few winning seasons and a few wildcard games. But if that makes y'all fans happy, then I guess Tomlin is doing his job. It's not all Tomlin's fault why the Steelers are mid. I believe y'all are just missing that guy, the leader, the game changer. Big Ben was the heart of the Steelers offense, and Troy Polamalu, who some would argue was the heart of the defense. George Pickens and Micah Fitzpatrick are good players, but they're just not good enough. You need a star, a face of the franchise, and that for sure isn't baby hands. Just look at his little ass hands, his fragile hands. I bet Kenny Pickett wears a youth medium and Nike gloves. All jokes, but seriously, he's not even decent. He's ass, and he's not your guy. Y'all need to trade for a new QB or find a way to draft one. Number 4, the Dolphins. A few years ago, the Dolphins were trash and nobody really acknowledged them. Those days they had Jarvis Landry, who is now washed and forgotten, and they had Tannehill at quarterback, who is garbage, just like his current team. But McDaniel changed everything. The Dolphins have an electric offense, a decent defense, and now are exciting to watch, mainly due to Concussion Boy, Tyreek Hill, and that guy who waddles. Little Man was a great addition to this offense, making the Dolphins the fastest team in the NFL, and probably the fastest team in history. They lit up teams all year and even put 70 points on Russell Wilson and the Broncos. but we had big expectations that the Dolphins couldn't live up to, all because the Dolphins fold in big games year after year. Miami is just a team with potential that can't finish, exactly why they folded to Kansas City this year. The cold weather and conditions were too much for Miami, and the Chiefs capitalized. Maybe in the future the Dolphins can find a way to adapt to colder weather conditions, but if they want any chance to reach the Super Bowl, they'll most likely have to go through Buffalo, Kansas City, or even Baltimore. Number 5, the Vikings. Vikings fans, you will never see your team in the Super Bowl. You need more weapons on offense, and you need more help for your struggling defense. And you need a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is done. Their project was unsuccessful and it's time to move on. Yes, he won you a few games, but every time he played in big games, he fell apart just like he did when he played for the Redskins. Kirk doesn't have a clutch bone in his fragile body and it shows. So who can replace Kirk? Well, I know for sure it's not Josh Dobbs. His future with the Vikings is not bright. The only thing bright is the glare on his bald ass head during interviews. If the Vikings want any chance to be Super Bowl contenders, they have to find a way to get a franchise quarterback and some help for Justin Jefferson. Edison isn't enough. You have to get another star receiver in Minnesota. Once the Vikings get the right pieces together, they could be dangerous. But would it even matter with Jordan Love and the Packers emerging as a threat in the NFC North? Or could the Vikings dethrone the Detroit Lions and take over the division? I'm just not so sure about that. What I am sure about is that I'm positive that none of these 5 teams could win the Super Bowl. Now, if you stayed to the end of the video, I just wanted to say thank you for your support. And if you haven't done so already, join the family and subscribe. And let me know in the comments who you believe will win this year's Super Bowl. Until next time. Until next time.